There's this weird feeling I get when I'm laying in bed scrolling. Not because I'm looking for something specific, but because I'm hoping something will find me. A clip, a memory, a sound. Something that'll remind me of a version of me that felt easier to be around. Because lately, I don't know how to feel like myself. And I don't know when that started. I think back to moments that don't even feel like memories. They feel like someone else's life I just happen to be watching through glass. It's not that anything's necessarily wrong. It's not a meltdown, not a full-on existential crisis, but there's this low hum of off. It's weird. Last week I turned 25, and something about that number has been messing with my head more than I expected. It's not old by any means, but it's not young in that invincible way either. It's not, you have all the time in the world anymore. It's, you should probably start figuring it out. But what does it even mean? Everyone around you starts quietly making choices, career paths, moving in with partners, saving for weddings, mortgages, maybe even kids. And suddenly it feels like there's this invisible current pulling everyone forward, except you. You're just kind of floating, watching, wondering if you missed the day when all the grown-up stuff got handed out. When I was a kid, 25 felt like I'd have it together. Like I'd know who I was, who I wanted, maybe even where I'd end up. But the truth is, I feel less sure of those things now than I did 5 years ago. There's this kind of identity whiplash where one day you feel completely grounded, and the next day it's like, who am I even becoming? And maybe that's part of it. Growth doesn't feel like leveling up. It feels like letting go of certain people, certain versions of yourself, certain dreams you outgrew quietly without even realizing it. That's the strange sadness in it. Turning 25 felt less like a celebration and more like a mirror, a long look at who I am right now and who I'm not anymore. The hardest part is looking back and realizing I used to feel more like myself. Or maybe it's that I used to feel more sure about who I was. Even if that version of me was naive or idealistic or completely lost in other ways. At least I believed in something. At least I anchored. Now I catch glimpses of that person sometimes. In music I haven't listened to in years. In old photo albums buried in my camera roll. In certain smells, places, or jokes only one person would understand. And it hits me not in a dramatic movie scene way, more like a quiet ache, like something you didn't realize you missed until it showed up again. I'm not saying I peaked. I'm saying maybe I used to recognize myself more easily. Now, everything feels more complicated. I used to look in the mirror and see someone older, maybe even a little wiser, but less certain, less loud, less sure. And I wonder if this is just what growing up is. Not about arriving anywhere, but slowly coming to terms with the fact that you don't really arrive. You just change. I used to feel more like myself, and I don't mean in some deep, poetic way. I mean like, I used to laugh differently. I used to get excited for things that now feel like chores. I used to like the sound of my own voice. I used to text back right away. I used to not rehearse every interaction before it happened. Somewhere along the way, something got quieter. Maybe it's growing up. Maybe it's the internet stretching our attention spans thin until we're just reactions wrapped in skin. Maybe it's just being tired. Because God, it's exhausting to constantly evolve. You spend your whole childhood trying to be someone. Then you hit your 20s and realize you don't even know who that was to begin with. And now you're stuck trying to get back something without knowing if it was ever real in the first place. Sometimes I wonder if the version of me I miss is just a highlight reel stitched together by nostalgia. Maybe I was never put together. Maybe I just felt more like myself because I wasn't even thinking about it all the time. I was just being. Now everything has context. Everything feels like it needs to be documented, validated or optimized. Even healing doesn't feel private anymore. There's pressure to do it publicly, to say, I'm working on myself, in a way that earns claps, not just peace. I don't want to be a brand. I don't want to be optimized. I want to be real. And I don't think real is supposed to look this clean. There's something sacred in the messiness, in the moments that make it onto a story, like making something just for yourself, or staying in bed for an hour without calling it self-care, just existing. When I say I used to feel more like myself, I think what I'm really saying is I miss who I was when I wasn't trying so hard, when life wasn't a performance, when friendships were stupid and simple, when I didn't carry the weight of every missed call like it meant something about me. I miss the versions of me that laughed out loud at my own jokes, that wore whatever felt good, not what fit the algorithm, that didn't overthink every choice like it would become a plotline in some invisible script. Because the truth is, we don't really lose ourselves, we just forget to check in. We stop doing the little things that kept us close to our center. We compromise 1,000 tiny pieces until one day we don't recognize the person staring back at us. But maybe that's okay. Maybe feeling like a stranger to yourself is part of becoming someone new, someone softer, more aware, a little more deliberate. I used to feel more like myself, but maybe this version, the one that's confused, a little lost, but still here, maybe this is just as real, maybe even more.